Welcome back. This is Dennis Spurling, and I want to talk to you guys about uh, another installation of power and influence. My good friend Kevin Samuels, who's no longer with us, had a conversation with me on several occasions, actually, before he departed, and he asked me to begin to educate men, modern men, on power and influence. And so, in this regard, I want to deal with an aspect of protection, protecting what's yours, protecting your reputation, understanding what an objective is, what the goal is. Recently, you guys saw me go at it with the Pookie and Ray Ray crowd on YouTube. There's about 70% of the population who occupied YouTube, I would say, before Kevin Samuel's arrival was guys who maybe weren't doing that well, guys who were on the lower end of the financial totem pole, educational deficiencies. And so, what you saw me do because of the pushback that they were giving the so-called educated lames was me use what I know um, based on my experience and my knowledge, things that I've written about in my books, Rules to Live By, How to Maintain Peace of Mind and Happiness in a Conflicted World. And you saw, for the most part, when I got finished with the Pookie and Ray Ray crowd, they were neutralized, and um, they were to a point where they just realized that they lost that battle. Now, of course, they're still around, and we have an understanding. But what you don't see them doing is openly picking on guys who have come into the YouTube space, who are educated, who are financially well off. There's a place for us now. What happened was, for years leading up to this, there was always so much conflict between young men who are out of college, young men who are doing well for themselves, whether it be a real estate agent, a lawyer, a doctor. There was always so much pushback. And this is reflected also in the Black community. Oftentimes, Black men who come home with education are deemed to be snooty or uppity. They're told that they think they're better than the rest of the other Black population. They're, in effect, shamed. They're shamed because of their education. They're shamed because of the way they speak, the choices that they've made in life. And so that was not something that is not something that is conducive to a healthy culture. You can't begin to always push out the educated and the elite among you, or else what will happen is your culture, your population will just dumb down over the years. And unfortunately, that's what's happened in the Black community. The thugs rule the Black community. The thugs, the ne'er do wells, the baby mama types, the people who have low aspirations, unfortunately, they rule the culture. Now, that is not the majority of Black Americans. That is not the majority of Black people. But unfortunately, they have a louder voice than everyone else. So, because of that, it's necessary that we begin to run them out of these YouTube spaces, because this is a space where all men should be able to speak equally. Whether you agree or not agree, you shouldn't allow one group to run you out. So I was not about to be in this YouTube space and allow it to mirror what's going on in the Black community, i.e., the thugs, the criminals, the ne'er do wells running it. Now, I simply applied the same rules to live by that I've written about in my books. And you guys, those of you guys who know me, you can purchase the books on Amazon. You can also get a hard copy by emailing me at spurlingdennis@gmail.com. Now, moving forward to Kevin Samuel's death, I, like many of you all, were caught off guard. I was looking forward to working with Kevin Samuels. I was excited about it. He and I, along with some other YouTubers, had traveled up to New York, and we met some very well-to-do um, YouTubers who now sell products and merchandise, which is something that I plan on doing, whether I work with others or not. Uh, but I think that I understand what Kevin's point was and trying to do it. Now, here's the problem. Because Kevin Samuels was, in some people's opinion, controversial, many people stepped up to try to bash him, destroy his character, undermine and by doing that, by undermining his legacy, they would then have undermined his message. I am associated with Kevin Samuels. So in them attacking him, they're also attacking me. More importantly, once the frenzy began, and this is, Kevin passed away on a Thursday. I believe it was Thursday the 5th or 6th. of May, and so they began to bash him. And his mother and his daughter and his family members, who well, his mother specifically, didn't really know how famous he was. This really upset her. And so Kevin Samuel's best friend, Jeff Liscombe, reached out to me on Instagram. And once I screened him and recognized it was really Kevin's best friend that he always spoke about, I gave him my office number. He called me, we spoke, and he asked that I um, help defend or help protect Kevin's legacy, do something about these trolls, give them some pushback. My first appearance, and I agreed because again, it's in my interest to help Kevin because I'm tied to his legacy because he's my friend. But more importantly, because he's my friend. And the objective being what? To push back on these trolls. The objective being what? To keep the trolls from talking about Kevin Samuels until this news cycle cycles out. What do I mean by that? What I mean is nothing is going to be hot forever. Kevin Samuels' death was hot for about 2 weeks. And then after that, or it would be hot for about 2 weeks, maybe 2.5, 3 weeks. And then people will move on to something else. There's always going to be something else coming up in the news. The objective for me would be to push the narrative that I want of who Kevin Samuels was as beneficial to him, his parents, or him, his mom, his dad, his legacy, his family, and not allow the negative narrative to stick. If the negative that is pushed out there that he was a misogynist, that he was a sexist, that he was controversial, that would have become part of his legacy. But because the truth went out along with the negativity, people had a choice and they can look and determine which one they wanted to believe. And so, of course, if you have facts to back up one, then most people who have good sense are going to go with the one who has facts, especially if it's coming from the lawyer's representative, or I'm sorry, the family's representative or spokesperson, which I was not his lawyer, not his family's lawyer, but solely a spokesperson. So here I am doing something they say could not be done, and that is fighting the internet. I don't know many lawyers who've been challenged like this. This is not necessarily something that they taught or teach you in law school. It takes a very special person who is versed in conflict to be able to deal with this. And so, I myself, having written 3 books on how to maintain peace of mind and happiness in a conflicted world, meaning how to reach a peaceful place once surrounded by conflict or when inundated with conflict, I was prepared for that. So, things that I began to assess. Well, what I want to do is try to break it down to you and explain. The first thing I did was throw out an alternative narrative, the truth, basically. This is who Kevin Samuels was. I experimented with things like, you know, talking about how he was family values oriented, how he wanted black people to be married, um, these sort of things, which people say, yeah, his fans would go with that and they would agree, and then they would help spread that message. The other thing that I did, I call him an Afrofuturist, which is in effect what he was. So now I'm slowly beginning to throw the narrative and change it out there, change the narrative. In addition to what I'm doing, and I'm putting it out on a platform, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and so the message is leaking out there. And people are saying, oh, even the situation where how he died, which is a mystery. I explained that he had vetted this young woman because they were trying to say he died with this woman he'd only met the night before, as if she was some sort of working girl. But that was just totally untrue. And the facts didn't bear that out. And so what I was able to do is explain to the crowd, to the mob who was hungry for information, that no, he had known this woman. You guys had remember when he said he was taking 1099s and he was vetting women and doing this, and he had been doing it for months. And she was one of the women that he decided that he would allow in his inner sanctum, and that he really wanted to try to have a relationship with her. And yeah, you guys got to understand, yes, it's odd, but it's also odd to become a multimillionaire inside of 2 years. So, you got to take precautions. You have to adapt. And I respect Kevin for that. He was definitely a brilliant man and he knew exactly what he was doing. And I wouldn't have done it any different. But The thing was that narrative had to get out there. Now, a lot of people will just sit around and let things happen, and then the truth will eventually come out. The truth will, no, it won't. The truth can be squashed to the ground for decades. You'll never actually know the truth. You have to actually put the truth out in people's faces aggressively. Okay. And even if that means challenging the trolls head on. Now, Kevin had a rule of not challenging trolls or dealing with his haters directly. I disagree with that rule. And in fact, I believe in challenging the haters. Now, the thing that I like to do and the thing that I've taught people who've studied under me is we always fight up, but there's always an exception to that rule. I teach the people who learn under me that we always fight up. Me, on the other hand, I will fight up and fight down. What do I mean by that? If there's a Dr. Boyce Watkins, that's considered fighting up based on my position. If there's a senator, if there is a president, if there's somebody who is within earshot that can hear your voice, and if you say something, they'll have to hear you, that's fighting up. For instance, Dr. Boyce Watkins, I said, Dr. Umar Johnson. These are all people who are nationally known. Not saying that there was a disagreement or whatever, but what I'm saying is that would be fighting up. Fighting a Barack Obama, that would be fighting up. Fighting down would be fighting some school teacher from Hoboken, New Jersey, who had something to say bad on the internet. That's not necessarily fighting up. That's fighting down. The reason I'm using this reference is because when you're on a hill or you're fighting for a hill, military conflict, you're fighting up to gain higher ground, because by attaining that higher ground, now you can see more, you can cover more area. And so you always want to fight up as a general principle. However, there is a time in which you have to fight down, especially when those people who are down there are undermining your base. So you have to know how to fight down. You have to know how to fight down, and you have to know how to fight up. Oftentimes, what the Roman army would do is the generals would do is they would divide the opposing sides. They would pick and choose. They would fight both of them, attack both of them, and then offer one a carrot and the other a stick. In other words, we'll give one some money and then we'll make an example out of the other. Pablo Escobar, he had a saying, "Plata o plumo." Either you get this silver or you get this lead. So what have I done? Okay, well, I want to first explain to you. I took three examples. There's a couple of people on the internet. One young lady, beautiful young lady, she calls herself Esquire Queen or Queen Esquire. So I'm looking for candidates. So I did some op-ed on it, figured out this pretty girl. She's apparently a beauty queen, lawyer, found out some different information about her. GoFundMe account this young woman had made me realize that she's looking for people to help her get a certain amount of money. So what is that? That's a vulnerability. There's a vice there, okay? And there's a vulnerability. What do I mean by that? Well, you don't get to be a beauty queen by not thinking very highly of yourself, even if why you have that opinion has nothing to do with your own efforts. In other words, you're dealing with a person who is kind of narcissistic. Not that that's a bad thing, because there's good and there's bad, but narcissist comes from the Greek story of Narcissus, who was looking in the mirror, looking in the glass pool, and he loved himself so much he got closer and closer to the pool. A water nymph reached her hands up and dragged him into the water, and he died. So his narcissism killed him. But it's a self-love. It's an extreme self-love. And so what do I know about that? I know that those type of people do not like criticism by any means. Okay. Then there's another gentleman, I believe he calls himself the Kevin Samuels Roast Channel. And so this guy, he's from Houston. He's a African person or something like that. But either way, he ended up in one of the countries in Africa after leaving Houston. And so I could kind of understand where he's coming from. You come from the place like Houston where you have all these ballers and you're relatively nobody and an unknown. You want to be known for something. You want some notoriety. You want to be special. And he has a video where he's on the internet giving some woman a Rolex, which I've seen Rolexes, and that probably wasn't a Rolex. And the fact of the matter is he didn't really give it away to her anyway. But this man is looking for notoriety. Unfortunately for me, the flaw in his character is that he refuses to show his face. So, of course, there's been times when everybody makes mistakes, even the faceless every now and then show their faces. So it came to my attention that there was a video out there where he'd shown his face. So I understand his vulnerability. His vulnerability is that he doesn't want people to see his face. Maybe he has some quirks or isms about that. Whatever, not my problem. I'm just looking for vulnerabilities at this particular point. I'm looking for how I can hit these people to make them want to do what? Attack me instead of attacking Kevin Samuels. Now, the thing is, why is that? Because remember, the objective is to protect Kevin Samuels' legacy until this cycle goes. So as long as they're spending their week and a half, 2 or 3 weeks attacking me, then they won't be attacking Kevin Samuels. And once the time is hot, once that the time for is once it cools down, it's over. It's really nothing else to say. That train is left, and there's nothing else to say. Now, there's another young gentleman, and I'd heard about him. I believe his name is, I think he calls himself the real estate something or another. I can't remember the young man's name. All of these people have less than 3 or 4 thousand followers. So, at this point, I have about 50 something odd thousand. And at some point before the end of the year, I'll probably have about 75, 80. I probably should have had a lot more than this, but because of I didn't really cooperate with the algorithm and that I specifically did things to undermine my intake. In other words, there's some I just do stuff just because I wanted to keep my crowd small. But as a result of the Kevin Samuels death, people began to gravitate toward my channel. So I just went with it. But the young man, I think he calls himself Mr. Real Estate. So these guys, these three are the ones that I chose to use. Now, here's what I did, right? And the first thing I want you to understand is this. This is something that is not something that is willy-nilly. It's all planned out. Again, I'm the author of Rules to Live By: How to Maintain Peace of Mind and Happiness in a Conflicted World, books that I wrote probably about 10 years ago at this point. So, what I want to do is first explain to you, let's go to rule number, oh my goodness, I can't believe it. Rule 31 is actually the rule I want to focus on. Never get so caught up into the fight that you lose sight of the objective. So basically, and let me see if I can blow that up so you guys can see it a little better. Let me see if you can see this. That should be, there we go. See, this is rule 31. Never get so caught up into the fight that you lose sight of the objective. So here's what happens. I do a broadcast, and I mentioned the young lady, Queen Esquire, and I also mentioned the troll guy, and I hit them in their soft spots. I point out the fact that the young lady who holds herself out as an attorney, and she is an attorney, and there's more information I know about the young lady, but it was unnecessary. I simply pointed out to her the fact that she was a former assistant district attorney. Now, there's some other information out there about that, but it's unnecessary to talk about that. And the reason being is because I want to actually create bridges instead of barriers. I will explain that a little bit later. That has a lot to do with Sun Tzu. And those of you guys, if you're going to read my book, Rules to Live, you're going to read my books, Rules to Live By: How to Maintain Peace of Mind and Happiness, you have to read Sun Tzu. You also have to read the 48 Laws of Power and several other books. But for the purpose of this conversation, we'll just focus on this, and I'll give you that tidbit of information later. So what I did was, in not forgetting the objective, I gave them a reason to be angry with me. Some of the things I said, for instance, I said in one of my broadcasts, and I put about 18 broadcasts out. And mind you, you guys got to understand, there were like thousands of videos out there, disparaging Kevin Samuels' reputation. And so what I had to do was, in having limited amount of time, which is just like having any limited resource, who wants to sit on the, recording for 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours? Can't do that. So I had to be very mindful with my resources. Because in addition to doing this, I'm running a full-time law firm. And, and also being a father and having a fiance, it takes a lot Um, so I had to do what I had to do to maximize what I was trying to get done. But the bottom line is, I attacked them. But see, they attacked me first. They began to mention my name. Okay, so you want my attention? Fine, no problem. The best, as I say in my books, the best way to get somebody's attention is punch them in the mouth. They punched me in the mouth. They got my attention. The reason they were doing that, what is their objective? Their objective is to get likes, shares, and subscriptions because that leads to more money, right? But the point of them attacking me was only as a byproduct to attacking Kevin Samuels because he was the moneymaker, because he was the one that the algorithm was sending people to. Okay. If you said Kevin Samuels, you were guaranteed to get another 2, 3, 400% more followers or likes or views than you otherwise would. So that should have been their objective. Unfortunately, when you understand somebody's vices, you know their weaknesses. This is another rule that I put in here. I'm going to try to find it real quick. Let me see. Want to make sure I get this in here because it's in there first adversary. Okay, well, here's another rule. The first adversary that you must conquer is yourself. What I'm saying here is, and that's rule 9. What I'm saying here is you are not going to be able to administer these rules to live by if you're not going to be able to deal with conflict if you don't understand yourself. Many of you guys who follow my page have seen me, you've seen me sit here and talk to people who are clearly adverse to my feelings and understanding about life. We're clearly diametrically opposed, in how we see the world. But you don't see me yelling. You don't see me getting upset. You don't see me because I've mastered myself. Even the Holy Bible says that, the first, you must master yourself, know thyself. Okay. And so that was one of the first things that you have to do. Otherwise, all of this will fail. See, these people, they don't, and there's another rule in here and basically saying, I'm looking for it. Let me see. What is your local? Let me run this quick commercial. I will be right back. Let me find this rule for you. Y'all make sure y'all subscribe to the channel. I'm going to look for this and I will be right back in about 10 seconds.
Hey, if you're enjoying the content, here at Dennis Spurling Unfiltered, make sure you support it by sharing and subscribing to the channel. And also, hit that little notification bell in the corner so that you'll get notice of each and every one of our live feeds. Thank you, everybody, for your contributions. I appreciate it. Let's keep it going. Donate to the Super Chat. Donate to the PayPal. Donate to the Cash App. It's your contributions and your donations that will cause for this platform to grow. Let our voice be the preeminent voice in Black America.
All right, so we're back. Okay, welcome back. This is Dennis Spurling, and I'm explaining to you all this, how I dealt with the Kevin Samuels troll. So the rule I was looking for was rule 4. It was right there. I don't know. Sometimes I missed up. You can rely on a person's shortcomings and vices to predict their actions and their demise. So with the young lady, I understood that she's a beautiful young lady. She's, there's a certain level of self-love in there. And so I knew she's not being one who's not being used to being attacked, being called out, really not attacked, but called out for, her bad behavior. And specifically what I did was I used the other female who was involved in the incident. What do I mean? There was a young lady who was with Kevin Samuels when he died. And unfortunately for everyone, this Miss Queen Esquire decided that she was going to put this young woman's name up, an image up 6 or 7 times. Now, I know even a rudimentary lawyer who hasn't really practiced law, who's only practiced criminal law or maybe a limited amount of civil procedure or civil law, understands that there's one thing to sue somebody for defamation. Then there's another thing for you to use somebody's name and likeness without permission and make money off of that. It's called the right of publicity. Every basic lawyer should understand that. So by her using this young woman's name and likeness and generating profit from them, the young woman probably has a cause of action that she can sue this lady. And if this young lawyer didn't know, then, bottom line is she probably talked to somebody who told her, yeah, you can't use somebody's name or likeness without their permission if you're making money. Fair use is not sufficient for that. and you still may get sued. And yeah, you might win, but you're still gonna, they still have a good, they have a cause of action to sue you. And so as an attorney, you really don't want to get sued for things like that. So, and most attorneys know they have to be very careful, just like cops shouldn't be out there breaking laws, because once they do, judges and other attorneys will make an example out of them, because this is what we do, we self-police. So that was her shortcoming. So I knew all I had to do was just mention her a little bit, and she was going to go ballistic. And what did she do? She probably heard I mentioned her name, and she immediately went on a live stream and opened herself up. Her actions were easily predicted. This is someone who's fragile. Now, the more important point is, you got to remember, as long as this young woman is making videos about me, right, then my objective is being fulfilled, right? Never get so caught up into the fight that you lose sight of the objective. I'm not concerned about what she or others say about me, because I can just simply make another video and make all of that go away, but Kevin Samuels can't. His legacy is now cast in stone. It's going to be what for people decide it is, right? And had I not conquered myself, knowing that I'm my own first adversary, had I allowed my emotions to get the best of me, had I responded, then it would have been bad. But remember, what you're looking at is me not attacking this young woman, but me reprimanding her for attacking this other young woman. So now you don't have this big brute out here beating up on this cute beauty queen lady. You got this man who's saying, hey, you shouldn't do that. This poor girl has done nothing. She's a private citizen. She didn't ask for this. And so what does that do? It makes the crowd say, he's kind of right, because it's not some guy picking on some woman. And so all the white knights, there's really nothing the white knights can say. It's like he's really just telling this one girl to not pick on this other girl who's vulnerable, who's actually the hero, as I planned it out. And so that sent her in a tizzy. But again, the objective is what? The objective is to what? Not allow or keep them from doing what? Attacking Kevin Samuels, because again, resources are limited. And so because of that, as long as they're attacking me, they're not attacking him. Right now, for the other guy, the troll guy, let me set something real quick. The troll guy, he's vulnerable because, he's hiding his face. He doesn't want people to see who he is. And now he's been exposed. And apparently this video has been floating around for some while, but I think I'm the only one that exposed him like that. So that's his soft spot, right? And then pointing out the fact that he's from Houston, from the poor part of Houston, went to TSU, went to a mediocre, high school. Now he's run off back to Uganda, and then calling him a loser, which is probably what he thinks he is. And so what did he do? He responded by calling me a snake. And what are the things that they do? Ambulance chaser. What else? The same names that people always call lawyers. The same stuff, the same old rhetoric that we hear going. And this is just really same old, nothing really authentic, nothing original. But the bottom line is he's now attacking me, or he was attacking me and not attacking them. Now, here's the crazy part. The crazy part is when you put Dennis Spurling in your heading, when you have pictures of me up, nobody's watching. People in Nebraska and Utah and places that the UK, Nigeria, they don't know who the hell I am. I'm just some lawyer from Texas, right? Nothing interesting about that. But Kevin Samuels, on the other hand, people want to click on that because, remember, he's in the algorithm. I'm not. So as long as they're making videos about me, they're not getting as many likes and views. And for those of you guys who don't understand how YouTube work, there's something called a click-through rate. The click-through rate is people see something, they click on it, whether they watch for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, or 20 seconds. Because they clicked on it, now YouTube is paying attention to you. Now you're getting money. Now you're getting proceeds in your way. So at the end of the month, or every 21st, on the 21st, your check is going to be bigger. if they're clicking on, if they're looking for Kevin Samuels and they see me and they pass me up, then I'm not the equal. I'm not that guy. So if they see Kevin Samuels, they'll click on it. If they see Dennis Spurling, they're not going to click on it. So what does that mean? That means these two struggle streamers are making less money because they're spending time making less. They're making less money because they're spending time making videos about some country lawyer from Texas, as opposed to Kevin Samuels, who's hot. So what have I done? I have eliminated their ability to make money because they're focused on me by poking them and then making them attack me. Number two, I'm fulfilling my objective and they are not fulfilling their objective. The whole point of them doing this is because it makes money. They don't know Kevin Samuels from Adam. He's just some guy on the internet that people are talking about. So they're trying to make money. I get it. And what they should be doing is focusing on the objective. Hell with what I'm talking about. They should stay focused on the objective, but they won't because I'm bothering them because I've hit them in their insecurities. Now, here's something else I want to add. There was another young man, and I believe, like I said, they call him the Mr. Real Estate. And, I told you earlier about the Pookie and Ray Ray thing that I did. I don't necessarily want to get rid of professionals. I want the professionals to remain here on these YouTube streets, so to speak. I want them to be here. And I think it's a good idea. So the young lady who's the attorney and the young man who's a real estate agent, I don't want to run them off. I want them to be here. I want this to be what Kevin Samuels wanted to be, a place where Black intelligentsia can get together and really, really flourish. There's literally billions of dollars out there to be made. And we're not going to make them if we're constantly fighting with each other. So what do? I pivot, full stop. And you guys, I mentioned to you guys this earlier, the Romans did this all the time, divide and conquer. I extended, and I never really went too hard on the young lawyer. Why? Because she was brave enough to show her face, and that says a lot about her character. So what did I do? I basically said, hey, let's give me a call. And I even put a post up. Let me show you the post that I put up for this young lady, because I want you guys to see that this is me saying, hey, this is extending an olive branch. I said this to the young lady. I said, I would rather, right? Because here's it. She actually went over to the troll page for this, the Kevin Samuels roast page. And she said, I said, I would rather work with this young lady, Queen Esquire, but she's over there hanging out with trolls. Y'all go talk to her and said, I said, what's up? It's all good. Because in reality, she doesn't know me. She doesn't know him. She's just being sensitive right now. But I never actually went too hard on her because I get her position. I know what it's like to be young and broke. I get that, right? I get it, right? And here's another one, Miss McCall. I kind of tease her a little bit about her GoFundMe account, but I compliment. I said, you're a pretty young woman, educated, intelligent. I hope you win, meaning I hope you win your contest. And I truly do. I hope she does. We need some more Miss Black Americas and Miss Americas who are Black. But I said, nevertheless, you're not like this non-foundational Black American loser from the crappy part of H-Town. Mind you, I put this on his page. You're a young Black professional. We can work with you. Kevin Samuels made plans to make hundreds of millions of dollars outside of YouTube. Send me your email. I really meant that. Okay. And, here's the other thing. This guy, what's his name? Mr. Real Estate. Now, this one is funny. He says he got a poll. Who's the most suspect in Kevin's murder? So they got me, Dennis Spurling. I'm 22%. They got the lady who was with him, who they refer to as the escort nurse. They even got O'Shea Jackson and Melanie King in here. But this guy is hilarious, but the more important thing is apparently he's a real estate guy, right? He's a money-making guy. She's a lawyer guy. I want to keep these people around. So what do? I said, y'all go tell this little brother, right? I still got a little demeaning language in there just so he'll know that I know who he is. Y'all go tell this little brother to calm down. Tell him I said we can do business together. And I'll send them and to send me an email. We can build bridges, not barriers. See, the point is this, And I talked about this earlier. Sun Tzu said this: if you can turn an adversary into a comrade or an associate or an ally, then that person is probably going to be more likely to, be loyal. And so that's what I'm doing. Now, the difference between the Mr. Real Estate guy and the Esquire, Queen Esquire lady, it's not that they're Black American, because it really wouldn't matter. I got some of my best friends are non Black American or non FBA. I love them to death. I do business with them like brothers and sisters to me. But that was his soft spot. That's why he ran back to Africa. You see, so that's why I hit him with that non FBA, because that's his soft spot. The other thing is Mr. Real Estate and this young lady, they're brave enough to show their faces. And I have to give them credit for that, because a lot of people hide behind these thumbnails and you don't even know who they are. You don't know their real identity. If someone is brave enough to stand out there and say these things, cool, especially after I broadcasted, I'm going to sue people and get them removed from YouTube, which I may do. Okay. I'm not saying I won't. I still may do that. But the bottom line is, whether I do it or not, they're still out there talking. And so that means they can kind of withstand the heat. Now, whether they can withstand the heat when it gets turned up, that's something that will remain to be seen. But the bottom line is, they're out here, they're doing their thing. I can work with them. And what have I just done? Now I've given one the carrot and I've given one the stick. So I'm saying, either you're going to get the plata or the plumo. you're going to get the silver or the lead. Okay. And so that's pretty much what I'm saying. And it's the same thing that the Romans did. You divide your enemies. You incentivize some of them to come be. Don't you want to be over here with winners? We're over here making we're going to make hundreds of millions of dollars. Do you want to continue being a struggle streamer? You want to team up with the struggle streamers? That's not going to work. That's not why you're here. Hopefully you're here to generate money. That's what YouTube is here for. That's why we're called content creators. And so now that they've seen me make hundreds of thousands of dollars over the past couple of years, they've seen Kevin Samuels make millions of dollars. They've seen some of these other YouTubers that he associates with himself with make hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars. Hopefully they'll get the point. But the bottom line is, I've used these rules to live by, and you guys have seen them full action. Many of you guys didn't understand what I was doing, and you won't unless you begin to read and digest these books. Unless you truly understand how conflict works, you can never have peace. Now, here we are, several weeks out, and the cycle is over. And people are now to the point where they're like, I know enough about Kevin Samuels that I love him more. I know enough about him, his mother, Miss Beverly, I know her name. They've come to my channel. They saw the memorial. Those of you guys who did see the Kevin Samuels memorial, which is still up on my page, you had 20 people give testimonies about how impactful he was. You had multiple YouTube streamers come on and say, oh my God, this guy's been so helpful to me. Big names, people like that. And so what it did was it drained folks of all their emotion. So that took them out. Now, that was the Sunday before his ceremony. So what did I do? Basically, I stole their emotions from them. So at the point where it's time to actually funeralize Kevin Samuels, you won't have a whole bunch of people showing up because they didn't get a chance to say goodbye. They got a chance to talk to his best friend. They got a chance to talk to his mother. She spoke to them. She made them feel better. It was an emotional thing. And that's some other rules I'd have to talk about. But the bottom line is, I snatched their emotions from them. I swallowed it up in a hurricane, and then we dissipated it. So now we're on the other side. That was the apex. The funeral is not going to be the apex of this story. The funeral is just the quiet ending and the peaceful and dignified funeralization or interment or return to the earth from which we came for Kevin Samuels, so his family can enjoy it. This was all a contrivance. This was all something that I put together, and it comes natural to me because, well, not natural, years of experience, education, reading and understanding the circumstances. As I say before, it's not because I'm a lawyer that I can do this. It's because I'm good at lawyering. Lawyers only know the law. I'm good at lawyering. Whether I was a plumber, electrician, or whatever, it's knowing how to deal with the crowd, is knowing how to deal with conflict, more importantly. And so what you saw me do is I never got so caught up into the fight that I didn't lose sight of the objective. The objective was to what? Preserve Kevin Samuels' legacy, to make sure his mother saw less videos of him being pushed out there. So now what? Now they attack me. But again, I'm like attacking me is like attacking a badger. It's not really much there. It's not, it's just not there. So you're not going to get the views and the likes. So in doing so, these individuals, these struggle streamers, will have to make a business decision. And by the time they decide that, oh, I need to go back to attacking Kevin Samuels, it's too late, because the folks have moved on to the next story. So this is something that I hope you guys understand now. This is from my power and influence series. How do you do it? And if you don't know how to deal with the crowd, you don't know how to deal with people in a scientific way and break it down line by line, you're going to fail. Life is, in order to get rich, you're going to have to deal with people. In order to make money, to be successful, be popular, you're going to have to manage people. One step in that journey is reading. I suggest you read my books. You can get them online at Amazon. You can also email me at spurlingdennis@gmail.com. They're only $54.99 while they last. This is going to be probably my last time printing hard copies of my books. There's only about 10,000 copies out there, and I probably have about another 25,000 copies. 2,500 copies left. If you don't get them now, mind you, I sell them in a 3-part series, so you can't just buy one. You got to buy all 3 of them for $54.99, and we'll send them to you. But again, you can always download them on the internet. But these particular group, I hand signed, autographed all of them. And so if you email me at spurlingdennis@gmail.com, I'll make sure you get a copy sent to you. And now it's only $15 per book, which is $45, but it's about $10 to send them out to you guys. So you're actually paying for postage and handling. But it's a great bargain. I would also suggest that you read Sun Tzu, The Art of War. In addition to that, The Richest Man in Babylon, The 48 Laws of Power, a book. I think I probably read that when it first came out. I had one of the first editions by Josh Elfers and Robert Greene. There's a couple other books. You can also, if you want to do maybe you're having a situation like this, you needed to be dealt with, give me a call at spurlingdennis@gmail.com. Whether it's an office setting, whether it's a business, whatever it is, you're always going to have to understand these rules to live by, because there's conflict everywhere. And if you read the books, I go from conflict in the streets, conflict in the office building, conflicts in the courthouses, emotional conflict. This is the way I've broken the world down. So I hope you guys enjoy this conversation. Again, we're talking about power and influence. To you trolls out there and you struggle streamers, look, I get it. I've been where you are. It's not my fault. You open yourself up and you got used, but that's okay. And the crazy thing is, to my friends and family, to people who like me, the fact that I'm telling them exactly what I'm doing is not going to stop them from making these videos about me, even though it's causing them to lose money. Because remember, these folks, I've hit them in their soft spot, so they can't help themselves. And that's what happens when you're unable to control your emotions. And so you'll see they'll keep trying, but eventually they'll realize there's nothing there, but my objective is over. Kevin Samuels' body is in the ground. His mother doesn't have to see these horrible things being said. And then we'll go about the process of removing those videos, and that'll be it. And that's the end of that story. I hope you all appreciate this work. This is Dennis Spurling. I hope you've learned something from this lesson. I really hope you guys get my books. I think they'll be educational for all men, but especially Black men, because these type of tactics are not anything you can learn anywhere. But I'm always here for you guys. Remember, if you want the books, hit me up at spurlingdennis@gmail.com. You've seen them work. You saw me do it with the Pookie and Ray Ray wars. You saw me do it with these Kevin Samuels trolls. And in my book, I describe how I apply the same things in office settings, in the courtroom, in love relationships, in child support, family law, divorce proceedings, how I apply these same rules on the streets of LA growing up in South Central, how I apply the same rules on the football field. It's about conflict and about peace. I even talk about how George Bush, World War II, Donald Trump, Obama, how they applied it. You know, the same thing I did here was the same thing that they did for the Iraq war. They simply said, you know what, you want to attack our homeland, i.e. 9/11? No, what we're going to do is we're going to send our best and our hardest fighters to Iraq, and we're going to make you fight us there. So any of these Middle Eastern guys who want to come bomb our buildings, no, we're going to send our best and brightest over here, and you can fight us over here. Here, there are Americans over here for you to fight. But instead of attacking innocent people in our buildings, now you're going to attack our Marines and our soldiers and our Rangers, our Navy, our pilots. This is the people you're going to fight. So basically, they did what I did. They caused a distraction. I understood that. They didn't understand that. The reason that they didn't stay in Afghanistan is just because there's not a lot of targets in Afghanistan. Anybody who's surveyed Afghanistan, been to Afghanistan, realizes it's just bush and trees and mountains and it's sparse. And Alexander tried it, it didn't work. But Iraq is basically Persia. It's a lush place with buildings. It's target rich, and there's some tertiary goals that can be reached. You can have control over their oil, and you can get rid of this Saddam Hussein person that you didn't like. So the primary goal being what? To give our enemy someone else to attack to protect the homeland. Basically, you did it. You caused a distraction. The same thing I did. I used myself as a distraction. Come attack me. I'm over here. You don't need to attack Kevin Samuels here. I'm a live target. I'll fight back. I hit him in the soft spot. They couldn't resist it. Same thing we did in Iraq under George W. Bush. I get it. I understand the tactics. Most people who expect people to fight straight forward and straight up, you wouldn't get that. You basic soldiers who don't make plans like this, you don't get it. It's not for you to get. There's levels to this, but I understand that. I actually wrote about that in my books too. And you guys can check that out, man. But either way, man, I'm doing this from a place of love. Shout out to Queen, whatever her name is, and Mr. Real Estate. And that troll dude, I'm going to get you, man. I'm coming for you. We know where you live, man. But either way, God bless y'all. This is Uncle D, and I'm out.